We are receiving information about this horrific tragedy. It has moved everyone in the Congress, as you might imagine. Our hearts go out to all those involved, the families, of course, of the victims, and we're so grateful for law enforcement. We trust and hope and pray that they're able to apprehend this individual as quickly as possible. There's no more injury or loss of life. At the end of the day, the problem is the human heart. It's not guns, it's not the weapons. At the end of the day, we have to protect the right of the citizens to protect themselves, and that's the Second Amendment. And that's why our party stands so strongly for that. This is not the time to be talking about legislation. We're in the middle of that crisis right now.
When is the time? House Speaker Mike Johnson calling this week's mass shooting in Maine a tragedy, but it's not the time, he says, to talk about new gun safety legislation.
It's never the time,
never the time.
And the problem is the human heart. It's not made of steel, and it can't repel the bullets. No, the problem's not with the human heart. Let me get confirmation from Caddy. Caddy, do they have human hearts in Britain and France and Germany and Spain? And by the way, do they have video games there? Do they have mental health problems? Again, we can go through all of this. Speaker says, and these people who want to go against 90% of Americans, it's not about this. It's not about the guns. It's about this, that, or the other. Again, there's nothing he can say that doesn't apply to Britain.
Nothing. I mean, of course, we have hearts and video games and mental health problems. America is, America is, exceptional in many ways, but it is not exceptional in that way. People are frail and have mental health problems and have frail human hearts and have video games that they play. And there are teenage boys and angry young men. Most of these mass shooters seem to be men and seem to be angry or seem to be disturbed in some way. And there are plenty of those, I can tell you, walking around England as well. The only difference is what we were talking about.
What do they do? If you're an angry young man in Europe, you play cricket. You might box. You start neo-Nazi parties. I mean, come on, it's not the... no, they're angry young men in Europe, and you've got to look at the growth of some of these parties. So, but they don't go out, Rev, and get a gun and shoot people up. And I'm going to say also, let's talk about the other side of this story. We talk about the mass shootings because they are just so horrific, but also the controlling of handguns, where 5%, maybe 7% of guns that are used in shootings are actually owned by the person shooting the gun. That's another thing that I just never figured out, why Republicans don't want to work more aggressively to sweep up illegal guns, because that accounts for the overwhelming majority of shootings. When we see all the people killed in Chicago and Philadelphia and L.A. and New York on these long weekends.
No, it is definitely trafficking illegal guns that there has been no real aggressive way to deal with. And then when you hear this incoming speaker talk about, well, we've got to deal with the fact that people have to protect themselves. Well, Mr. Speaker, how do you protect yourself in a bowling alley? You're supposed to roll the bowl and hold the AR-15 while you're standing there to see if you knock all the pins down or not. I mean, it's absurd. When you look at what just happened, how would they defend themselves in that situation? And are we supposed to arm everybody with military weapons? They do not. I mean, when we talk about this man hearing voices and there was no red flags, there was no background check, there's no way you defend yourself against people that may be in a state that they're not in their right mind, but they can get military-style weapons that can kill multiple people. Yeah. How do you defend yourself against that?
And again, the extremism is unbelievable, Elise. The extremism that has been revved up by, whether you're talking about the NRA or other gun owners of America, saying that red flag laws are somehow against the Second Amendment. That's a lie. The Second Amendment, you know what the Second Amendment says? The Second Amendment says what the court said it said in Heller back in 2008, which is you have a right to have a handgun in your home. You have a right to have a shotgun in your home to protect yourself. That's your constitutional right. Outside of that, it's up to the states. It's up to the people.
What I find so upsetting is just that these guns are they can kill so many people without stopping to reload. And that's just a function of what we allow to be on the market. you end the high volume magazines, and you end at least as much of the slaughter as quickly, and you at least give the cops a chance to come in. Some of these guns that are used, you can't even buy a vest over the commercial market that's going to protect. They'll just pierce the armor. It's sick. It's disgusting.
And we just heard again that police officers are often outgunned, that they can't match up when a suspect has one of these weapons. And it's a moment of such limited political courage. The NRA is a diminished organization from where it has been. Really, it's had a leadership crisis, funding crisis, but it's become such a cultural issue for some on the right. To your point of paranoia about them coming to get us, we heard it even when the IRS was being expanded. People were talking about the need to have
senators.
Senators were talking about that. Chuck Grassley was talking about that. And yes, we should note there was some bipartisan and modest legislation was passed last year. That was good. That was. But even those involved with that process recognize it was a very small and inadequate first step.
It was a first step. But Willie, we didn't even put Uvalde wasn't even on the list.
It wasn't,
from the Daily News. Yeah. And I had a conversation with somebody last summer where, because again, I was conservative and I had a A+ rating with the NRA and all the gun groups, and so I believed what I believed. I do the arguments, and so now that I've post Sandy Hook. Realized that some of these things are just extreme, and the body counts just keep piling up. I'll often have people start to debate me on it. Why did you change? Why did this? Why did that? And they take like red flag laws, or they take some other laws, and they say, add all of this up, and it's just like Hitler. It's what Hitler did. It's what Pol Pot did. It's what Stalin did. They took away all the guns. And so you've got the government that has all the power now. I go, you had hundreds and hundreds of police officers standing outside of the Uvalde Elementary School while one guy had a weapon that slaughtered those little children. And none of the police officers would go in because you're talking about the government having all the power. No, we've had Republicans now allow America to live in a place where one crazy person on their 18th birthday can go buy a gun and slaughter little children in schools. And the police officers, the state, sits outside helplessly because they're outgunned. Now, if anybody thinks that is a safe situation where they want crazy people with military-style weapons that were developed to hunt humans in the jungles of Vietnam, being able to outgun Texas law officers, well, I think you live in a different country than me. I mean, you're absolutely crazy. Let me find the camera. You're absolutely crazy, and you're letting little kids continue to be killed. And this is simple. This is black. This is a choice. The slaughter of these little children, the slaughter of people at bowling family nights, the slaughter of Baptists in churches, the slaughter of people at country music festivals, the slaughter of people at synagogues, that is a choice that you're making. And Willie, it's a choice that they're making because of money. It's all about money, and it's all about political fear.
And most people in this country, look at the poll again, don't want to live this way.
No.
There's a small minority, a lot of them happen to be in the United States Congress, who say this is the price of freedom. This is the price of the Second Amendment. Sometimes you're going to lose some little kids in a school in Uvalde or in Nashville or in Connecticut. It just happens. We have to protect our right. And I would just say to the new speaker, he makes the point about it's the human heart and not the gun. In this case, we're just talking about the human mind. If someone is that troubled and that many people say, hey, this guy's got a problem, perhaps he shouldn't have access to a high-powered semi-automatic rifle. That's what people are saying here.